Hey friends, what's up? How you guys doing? Really good, right? I knew it. Today we're studying Daf Kuf Lamed of Masechta Shabbos, Daf 130. And of course you are listening to Babylon Talmud. Friends, today we begin the 19th, holy cow, the 19th chapter of Masechta Shabbos. We're getting pretty close, 19 out of 24. Wow, we are already within the, we're already within the 4-week mark, right? That's pretty cool. Today we begin the 19th parak of Masechta Shabbos, parak Rabbi Eliezer de milah. I think that this is like the main kind of place where the Gemara talks about bris milah, I think. So we are kicking off this parak today. Let's do an overview before we begin. So there's machlokes. We're going to see a machlokes between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Akiva in the Mishnah about can you or can you not carry the knife to perform a circumcision. Can you carry that on Shabbos? Then we'll talk about some interesting Aggadatas on the first Amud. Then we'll continue talking about if you can carry the knife on Shabbos. We're going to see a three-way machlokas there, and talking a little bit about carrying in a mavui. It's not a particularly difficult daf. Friends, let's get started. Daf Kuf Lamed Amud Aleph, all the way at the top, at the Mishnah. New parak, Rabbi Eliezer Omer, says Rabbi Eliezer, Im lo hevi kli, me'erev Shabbos, mevio b'Shabbos megula. Oh. So, if, I guess the mohel, the person doing the bris milah, he didn't bring the knife to the location where the bris is going to happen. So you got to get the knife there somehow. Can you bring the knife? Can't you bring the knife? So Rabbi Eliezer says if he didn't bring the knife from before Shabbos, mevio b'Shabbos, so he can bring it on Shabbos, no problem. He can carry it, Rishus Harabim, no problem. But he says migula, it should be exposed. It should be out in the open so that everybody could see that he's carrying this knife. And the Gemara is going to talk about how come it has to be exposed. Why can't he just put it in some kind of a bag or something? Uve sakana, if it is in a dangerous time, as Rashi says, uv sakana shegazu goyim ala milah, that the Gentiles made a gezerah that the Yidden are not allowed to do bris milah. So therefore, it could be dangerous to just walk with the knife exposed. So what he can do then is that he can cover it, he could put it in a bag or something like that, but we don't want that anybody should suspect him of carrying on Shabbos, so he goes with 2 witnesses and they can attest to the fact that he is carrying a knife to perform a bris milah. He's not just carrying stuff for fun. Ve'od amar Rabbi Eliezer, and Rabbi Eliezer even takes it one step further. Korsim eitzim lasos pchomen lasos barzel. He says you can even cut down trees to chop wood so that you can then burn the wood to create coal, so you can then burn the coal to heat up metal to then create a knife so you can then do a bris milah. Meaning he says that, he says basically anything tangentially connected to performing a bris milah you can do on Shabbos. Any malachas, any of these machshirei mitzvah, any of these sort of meta things that enable you to ultimately perform the mitzvah. Klalam Rabbi Akiva, whereas Rabbi Akiva says that the general rule is kol malacha she'efshar la'asos me'erev Shabbos eina docha es Shabbos. Any malacha that you could have done before Shabbos began, well then it's not docha Shabbos, you cannot do that malacha on Shabbos. However, milah she'efshar la'asos me'erev Shabbos docha es Shabbos. So the circumcision itself, which you can't do before Shabbos because it can only be done on the 8th day. Before Shabbos would have been the 7th day. So that you can do on Shabbos. However, bringing a knife to the place where the bris milah is happening, well, you can do that before Shabbos. So do that before Shabbos, it won't be doche Shabbos. Only the parts of the mitzvah that must be done on Shabbos can be done on Shabbos. Ibayalahu. The Gemara asks a question. Time Rabbi Eliezer mishum chibuve mitzvah o dilma mishum chashada. The Gemara wants to know, how come it's so important to Rabbi Eliezer that the knife is exposed, why can't you just put it in some kind of a bag or something and carry it like that? So is it because of chibuve mitzvah? Is it because the mitzvah of bris milah is so beloved to us that why would we cover this up? Why would we cover the fact that we're bringing this knife to a bris milah? No, expose it. Show, out of love for the mitzvah, we're going to show that he's carrying the knife on Shabbos. Or is it because of a chashada? That, he wants to, he realizes that he's carrying on Shabbos, and he wants to make it clear that he's only carrying the knife so that he can do a bris milah, he's not carrying anything else, right? Don't suspect that, you shouldn't suspect that he's carrying all sorts of other things that he's just carrying on Shabbos, right? If it was, let's say in a bag, so then you might think, oh, what else you got in the bag? So therefore, so that nobody should think anything wrong, whatever he's carrying, he's showing his cards, he's saying, look, the only thing I'm carrying here is this knife, I'm not carrying anything else. L'may nafka. So the Gemara says, who cares? Who cares if Rabbi Eliezer says that it's exposed because he loves the mitzvah or because he doesn't want anybody to think that he's carrying anything else? What's the nafka mina? The Gemara answers, there's a nafka mina. What if instead of this mohel carrying the knife revealed, instead he puts it in a bag, but he takes along with him 2 witnesses. Now, the Mishnah had said that if it was a dangerous time in which the non-Jewish people who were in power decreed that the Yidden can't be doing a bris milah, so in that case we said that you have to do that, right? That you'll carry the knife in a bag and you'll have 2 witnesses to attest to the fact that it's only a knife in there. But here we're talking about where it's just a regular time, so we can do whatever we want. So the question is, can you carry this knife to the place where the bris is going to be, but instead of exposing it, you'll put it in a bag, but you'll have 2 people to testify about the fact that the only thing in the bag is this knife. So, if you say that, according to Rabbi Eliezer, the knife needs to be exposed because it shows how much we love the mitzvah, that we're showing that we're on our way to do a bris. So, if that's the case, then it needs to be revealed. You can't just decide that you want to put it in a bag and bring along 2 witnesses. No, if we love the mitzvah, we want to show it off. But if you say that the reason why Rabbi Eliezer says that the knife should be exposed when you're walking through Rosh Hashanah to go to where the bris is, so the point is that we are concerned. So if you say that the reason why the knife should be exposed is because we don't want anybody to think that maybe, to wonder what you're carrying, so you're just showing them what you're carrying. Well, if that's the case, no problem. You could put it in a bag and just have people attest to the fact that the only contents in the bag is the knife. So which is it? If you say chibuve mitzvah, you would not be able to put it in a bag and have witnesses. If you say it's about people suspecting you, so then you would be able to just put it in a bag and have 2 people testify about the contents of the bag. So what do we say? Itmar, it stated, Amra Levi lo Amra Rabbi Eliezer ela l'chibuve mitzvah. Okay, so Rabbi Levi says that Rabbi Eliezer's reason for exposing the knife is out of love for the mitzvah. Taninami Achi, we also learn in a brayso like this, Mevio Megula ve'ein Mevio Mechusa divrei Rabbi Eliezer. We also have a brayso saying that you bring the knife revealed, you do not bring it concealed. That is Rabbi Eliezer's opinion. So it sounds like it's about chibuve mitzvah, about out of love for the mitzvah, we expose the knife, do not conceal the knife. Amr of Ashi, Masnisa nami deka, says Rav Ashi, you can even infer it from our Mishnah. Why? Dekatani uvishasa sakana mechaseu al pi edim. It says, when can you cover up the knife and have witnesses attest to the fact that you're only carrying a knife? During a dangerous time. Bisakana in shelo bisakana lo. Only during a dangerous time, in a dangerous predicament, can you cover it and just bring along witnesses. But if it's not a dangerous time, you don't do that. You bring the knife revealed out of love for the mitzvah. Shema Mina mishum chibuve mitzvah Shema Mina. So we see that it's about love for the mitzvah, not about the yentas. Tanya idach. We have another brisa. Mevio megula vein mevio mechusa divrei Rabbi Eliezer. That Rabbi Eliezer says that you bring the knife revealed, you do not bring it concealed. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Mishum Rabbi Eliezer, says Rabbi Yehuda in the name of Rabbi Eliezer, that during a dangerous time, so then they would conceal the knife and have witnesses attest about the fact that the only thing that this person is carrying is a knife for the bris, and that's that. But in regular old times, you would reveal the knife out of chibuve mitzvah. They ask the kasha, Eidim de ka'amar iu v'chad udilma hu v'trei. When it says that, when the Mishnah says that during a dangerous time, so you can conceal the knife and have two witnesses to attest to the fact that you are carrying only a knife to do a circumcision. So, who are these two witnesses? Is it the person carrying the knife and one other person? Or is it the person carrying the knife and two other people? What do you guys think? Tashma uvsakane michaseu al pi edim. So the Gemara says, well, what does the Mishnah say? It says, well, during a dangerous time, you cover it, and then you have witnesses. Now, iyamad bishlama hu v'trei shapir. No, I get it if you say that it means the person carrying the knife plus two others. That's what witnesses are, right? If we're saying that you need witnesses, the person who's carrying the knife can't be a witness to himself, can't testify about himself. He needs two other people if it's going to be real testimony. Eliyamar ha hu v'chad my edim. If you say it's just him and one other, where are your witnesses to testify about what's going on? He can't testify about himself. Rather, shuru'uyim lo'ed b'makom echad. So the Gemara says, no, it can be him and just one other person. Even though, sure, over here, it wouldn't be good testimony, it's true. But there doesn't need to be good testimony. It's not dinei mamanis, it's not dinei nefashis, you're not going to court about anything. It's more just that we need to, somebody to tell us about what's going on, and it's just saying that we need edim, two people that in general, in other situations, would be able to be two witnesses. That's what we need over here, just to, be mivarer, just to let us know, like, yeah, by the way, I can attest to the fact that we're only carrying a knife over here, but it's not like you need real testimony. There's no, like, chiyuv of edus. You're not going to court. There's no bezdin. There's no dinei mamnis. There's no dinei nefashis over here. We're just saying that we want, some kind of, assertion or whatever, that there's no chilul Shabbos happening over here. You don't need real edim. The person carrying the knife and one other would be enough. V'od Amar Rabbi Eliezer, and then fine. So Rabbi Eliezer said you would even be able to chop down trees to make coal, to then make metal, to then make a knife, all that meta stuff. Taner Rabbanan, the rabbis taught him, Komo Shel Rabbi Eliezer, are you korsin eitzim lasos pchomen lasos barzel b'Shabbos? So the rabbis taught that where Rabbi Eliezer lived. Oh, I actually just looked up where Rabbi Eliezer lived on Janine's chart. Actually, what? It said that Rabbi Eliezer was in Lud. Is it Lod? Maybe Lod. He was in Lod by the Ben Gurion airport. Before there was a Ben Gurion airport, Mistama. So where Rabbi Eliezer lived, so they would chop up trees, lasos pchamin, in order to make coals, lasos barzel, so that they could then make iron, so that they can make a knife. B'Shabbos. B'komosh Rabbi Yossi Aglili, listen to this, friends. Where Rabbi Yossi Aglili lived, hayu ochlin b'sar ov b'chalav. They would eat chicken, bird meat in milk. In milk. They would have chicken with maybe cheese, like a chicken parmesan kind of Indian, I guess. Alright, very nice. Levi ikla levei Yosef Rishba. Now Levi, what I love about this story is I love these stories where there's right on the edge of Amoraim and Tanaim, where you see some early Amoraim interacting with late Tanaim. It's fun where the line gets blurred a little bit over here. So Levi ikla levei Rabbi Yosef Rishba. So Levi visited the house of Rav Yosef, the bird trapper. Krivule Reisha de Tavasa Bichalva. And they, and I guess they were eating together, and they brought out to Levi the head of an ostrich in milk. How does that sound to you guys? Appetizing? I don't know, right? Okay. Lo achal, and sure enough he didn't eat. Now I guess, I don't know, would you want to eat that? Ostrich head in milk. Alright. He also the comment of the Rebbe, but he didn't eat it because it was unappetizing. He didn't eat it because it was bird meat in milk. So Levi felt that it probably was against the halacha. So Kiyasa the comment of the Rebbe. So when Levi then went to Rebbe, and that's what I'm saying. So Levi is like an early Amora. And Rebbe, of course, is Rabbi Yehuda Anasi, who compiled the Mishnah, was a Tana. Omerle, Amaylo Tishamtinu. So Rebbe asked Levi, like, Levi, why didn't you put Rav Yosef, why didn't you put Yosef Rishba into excommunication for eating bird meat with milk? Omerle asked Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira Hava. Well, Levi said, well, because, look, it wasn't my place. I was just a guest over there. This, Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira is the rabbi of this area. V'amina, and I said to myself, Dilma Darshlu, Rabbi Yossi Aglili. Maybe Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira holds like Rabbi Yossi Aglili. The Tanan, as we learn in the Mishnah, Rabbi Yossi Aglili Omer, Nemer lo sochlu kon nevela, v'nemer lo savashu gedi b'chalev imo. There's a pasuk in Sefer Dvarim that says, do not eat any nevela. And in that same pasuk it says, do not cook a kid, a little goat, in its mother's milk. I.e., don't eat milk and meat. As sha'asu mishum nevela, asu levashal b'chalev imo. Sha'asu mishum nevela, one second. Fine. So, something that is asur from nevela, so you cannot cook in its, you cannot cook in milk. Oh, what did I just read? Well, I don't know what I just read. One second. As she'asur mishum nevela, asur levashal b'chalav, right? Something that is asur b'nevela, right? Because the pasuk had said, lo sochlu kon nevela, don't eat any nevela, and then it says, do not cook meat and milk. So what they want to say, the drasha is that anything that is asur for nevela, that if it's just a dead animal that wasn't shechted, you would not be allowed to eat it. Well, that you also would not be able to eat when it's cooked in milk. So now, oath, she'asur mishum nevela, yachuye asur levashal b'chalav. So Rabbi Yosef Aglili says, what about birds? Birds, you're not allowed to eat nevela. If it's just a dead bird that wasn't shechted, you're not allowed to eat it. So I would think that you also would not be allowed to eat bird meat cooked in milk. So tamulome b'chalev imo. B'chalev imo, right? Yatza'ov she'eno chalev em. To the exclusion of birds, that birds' mothers don't have milk, and therefore you would be allowed to eat bird meat cooked in milk, according to Rabbi Yossi Aglili. Yes, and therefore Levi did not want to excommunicate Yosef, the bird catcher, since it was an area where Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira was the rabbi, and maybe Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira held like Rabbi Yossi Aglili that you would be allowed to put ostrich heads in milk. Amr Yitzchak said, Rabbi Yitzchak, Ir Achas Haisa be'Eretz Yisrael, there was a city in Eretz Yisrael, Shayu Osin Rabbi Eliezer, that they did like Rabbi Eliezer, that they would carry a knife to perform a bris milah on Shabbos, and it would be revealed because of chibuvei mitzvah. Vayumesim bizmanan, and all the people in this town would die at the proper time, they wouldn't die young. V'lo'od, not only that, El Shapam Achas, Gazra Malchus Arsha, Shmara Yisrael Al Milah, and not only that, one time the evil government made a decree against doing bris milah, but they exempted that city from that decree, or they passed over it, whatever it was, but that city was spared. So we see that these people really, it was very beloved to them, the mitzvah of bris milah, and everyone died on time, and even when there was a gezerah against bris milah, somehow that city got skipped. Tanya, we learn in a brayso of Shimon Gamliel Omer, Kol mitzvah shekiblu aleim besimcha, any mitzvah that the Yidden accepted upon themselves in happiness, kigon milah, such as bris milah. Tichsiv, as the pasuk says, Sasanochi alim rasecha k'motzei rab. I rejoice on your words, on your word, like somebody who finds great bounty. Now, imrasecha, as Rashi points out, is a reference to bris milah, which was the one mitzvah that was given before everything else. So, that's a reference to bris milah. And Rashi also quotes the Gemara in Menachos that David HaMelech, when he was in the mikvah, he was very sad because he can't do any mitzvahs in the mikvah, but then he saw his bris milah and he was happy because that's a mitzvah that he always has with him. So we see that, so Reb Shimon Gamliel says that any mitzvah that the Yidden accepted upon themselves b'simcha, with happiness, so adayin osin osa b'simcha, we still do it in happiness, right? Whenever there's a bris, so it's a whole party, and you get a whole bunch of people together and have a meal, etc. V'chol mitzvah shekiblu aleim biktata, but any mitzvah that the Yidden accepted upon themselves with fighting, that they weren't happy about, could go on arayos, such as arayos. They were very upset that they couldn't marry their sisters anymore. Tichsiv, as the pasuk says, Vayishma Moshe esa'am bochel mishpachosav, that Moshe heard the nation crying to his families, al iske mishpachosav, regarding matters, familial matters, that they could no longer marry their relatives. They were very annoyed. So adayin osin osa biktata, they still do it with fighting. Deleka ksuba deloramu ba tigra. There is never a marriage contract that doesn't have fights surrounding it. Okay. Tanya within the Brisa of Shimon ben Elazar Omer. Kol mitzvah shemasu Yisrael atzman aleh lemisa b'shas hashmad. Any mitzvah that the Yidden, gave themselves over to death during a, very turbulent period, where it was a dangerous period, and Yidden risked their lives to do these mitzvahs. Kigon, for example, avodah zarah umila, right? The Yidden wouldn't serve avodah zarah. They continued to do bris milah even when things were difficult. Adayin hi muchzekes biyadam. We still don't do avodah zarah. We still do bris milah, and it's solid. It's strong. V'chol mitzvah shalom asu Yisrael atzman aleh lemisa b'shas hashmad. But mitzvahs that the Yidden didn't necessarily risk their lives to perform during a dangerous time, kigon tefillin, such as tefillin, adayin merupa biyadam. It's still weak in our hands, and we'll see what it means that it's weak in our hands. Tamar Reb Yanai, as Reb Yanai says, tefillin tzrichin gufnaki, that when you wear tefillin, you have to have a clean body. Ke Elisha bal knafayim, just like Elisha bal knafayim. Maihi, what does this mean, a clean body? Amar Abai shlo yafiach bohem, Rava Amar shlo yishan bohem. Abai says that you shouldn't pass gas in your tefillin, and Rava says that you shouldn't sleep in your tefillin. If I remember correctly, it's so that you don't pass gas in your tefillin. Okay? So we see two things over there. One thing is that the fact of the matter is that we need to make halachas surrounding how a person should act in his tefillin, right? It's not obvious to them. We have to make halachas surrounding that. And also, we're about to read the story of Elisha bar Knafayim, we've actually seen before, but we see that he was the exception to the rule. It was a dangerous time, and Dafka, one person, took it very seriously, but not necessarily everybody else. How come we call them Elisha bar Knafayim? One time, the evil government decreed dangerous decrees on Yidden. Tefillin al rosho yikaru es mocho. Listen to that. That anybody who puts tefillin on his head, well, we're going to pierce his brains. That sounds rough. Yeah, it sounds really bad. Very unpleasant, very murderous, not very nice. But nonetheless, Elisha was adamant, and he would put on tefillin and go out to the market. And then a certain Roman police guy saw Elisha wearing his tefillin. That is going to be a problem. So Elisha ran away. But this Roman police officer chased after Elisha. When the Roman officer caught up with Elisha, Elisha took off the tefillin from his hands and from his head and put them in his hands, held them in his hands. And the Roman soldier said, "Hey, Jew guy, what's in your hands?" He said, "Oh, nothing, just like some dove wings." And guess what? He opened up his hands, and sure enough, there were dove wings there. That's why they called him the guy with wings, Elisha the wing guy. Okay. How come they decided to call, how come he said that in his hands were dove birds? What's specific about a dove? So Mishum the Dami Knesset Yisrael Liona. It's because Am Yisrael, the congregation of Israel, is compared to a dove. Shenemar, as the pasuk says in Tehillim, Kanfe Yona nechba bakesef vevoseh birakva charutz, like the wings of a dove that are covered in silver, and its wings are covered in like green gold, like gold that kind of has a green tint to it, which I guess is very fancy. Just like a dove, its wings protect it. If it needs to fight, it fights with its wings. So also the mitzvahs, they protect the yidden. Amar bi Abba bar Rav Ada Amar bi Yitzchak pam achas shachachu v'lo eviu izmo me'erev Shabbos ve'eviu b'Shabbos derech gagos v'derech chatzeris shelo b'ratzon Rabbi Eliezer. Let's read that again. Pam achas, one time, shachachu v'lo eviu izmo me'erev Shabbos. One time they forgot and they didn't bring the circumcision knife to wherever they were doing the circumcision before Shabbos. Ve'eviu b'Shabbos. So l'maaseh, they brought it on Shabbos. Did they just bring it in the Rishus HaRabim? No, they did not. Derech gagos v'derech chatzeros. They jumped from a roof to a courtyard, maybe to another roof, to another courtyard. They avoided Rishus HaRabim, because at the end of the day, the roof of a house is Rishus HaYachid, a courtyard is Rishus HaYachid. All these things about Eruv and stuff like that, when it comes to chatzeros, is Midir. So they figured, they didn't want to carry Rishus HaRabim, which is Nisud D'Oraisa, but rather what they did was they carried this knife to the place where the bris milah was happening. They carried it by way of the roofs, the chatzers, rather than Rishus HaRabim. Shelo b'ritzon Rabbi Eliezer, not within the desire of Rabbi Eliezer, who says, look friends, just take it in Rishus HaRabim exposed. Ma'askef lo Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef asks Akasha, Shelo b'ritzon Rabbi Eliezer, what do you mean that was not like Rabbi Eliezer? Adrabah, Rabbi Eliezer with the Shari. Isn't Rabbi Eliezer the one who allows you to carry a knife for bris milah on Shabbos? So they were carrying a knife for bris milah on Shabbos. If you're going to say, yeah, but Rabbi Eliezer says that they can even bring it in Rishus HaRabim. Ela b'ritzon d'Rabbanan de asu derech Rishus HaRabim v'shar derech gagos derech chatzeros v'karpefos. So maybe what you're going to say is, yeah, it was against Rabbi Eliezer because Rabbi Eliezer says bring it Rishus HaRabim, and they were bringing it on roofs and courtyards. So rather they weren't doing like Rabbi Eliezer, rather they were doing like the Chachamim. Who's the Chachamim? What do they say? Well, the Chachamim say that you wouldn't be able to carry this knife from Rishus HaRabim, but you would be allowed to carry it on roofs, in chatzeros, in these karpefos, which are like non-residential spaces. So they say that while you wouldn't be allowed to carry it in Rishus HaRabim, you would be allowed to carry it in these other places. And therefore they were doing like the Chachamim, and Rabbi Eliezer was insulted. Umishari, but do the Rabbanan actually say that? Do the Rabbanan say that you would be allowed to carry this knife by way of like roofs and courtyards? V'atana, but we learn in the Brayso, shame mevi'in also derech Rishus HaRabim, just like you would not take this knife by way of Rishus HaRabim. Kach ein mevi'in also lo derech gagos, v'lo derech karpefos, v'lo derech chatzeros. Just like you do not carry this knife in Rishus HaRabim, you also would not carry it on roofs, on courtyards, in non-residential spaces. So what's pshat? Who were these people doing? Like, why were they carrying this knife on the roof? and courtyards and things. El Amar Rav Ashi shelo b'ritzon Rabbi Eliezer umachlukasu el b'ritzon Rabbi Shimon. Says Rav Ashi, yeah, it means that they weren't doing like Rabbi Eliezer, who says that you can carry it in Rosh Hashanah. And they also weren't doing it like the people who argue on Rabbi Eliezer, i.e. the Chachamim, who say that not only would you not be allowed to do it in Rosh Hashanah, you also would not be allowed to carry it on roofs and courtyards and non-residential spaces. Ela b'ritzon Reb Shimon, rather they were doing in accordance with the opinion of Reb Shimon. The Tanan, as we learn in the Mishnah, Reb Shimon Omer, says Reb Shimon, echad gagos ve'echad karpefos ve'echad chatzeros, whether it is roofs, whether it is non-residential spaces, whether it is courtyards, kulan b'shus echarein l'kelim sheshavsu b'sochim v'lo l'kelim sheshavsu b'soch habayis. It says Reb Shimon that when it comes to carrying on Shabbos, and not just a knife to do bris milah, carrying anything on Shabbos, you would be allowed to carry from a roof to a courtyard to a non-residential space, and all sorts of combinations of that. No problem. You can do that. As long as the thing that you're carrying was either on a roof or in a courtyard or in a non-residential space. Non-residential space is like some kind of like area that is not used for living, but it's surrounded with a wall. So now, Reb Shimon says, as long as when Shabbos started, this item that you're carrying was in one of these areas, right? A non-residential space, a roof, a courtyard. When Shabbos started, you can now carry it on Shabbos and go from a chatzer to a karpef, to a karpaf, to a roof. You can move things around like that, as long as when Shabbos started, it was not inside a house. Because that would be a problem, right? Because that's the whole thing about Eruv. Right? If you have a bunch of houses that open up into a chatzer, so you have to do an Eruv in order to be able to take something out from your house to the chatzer. However, if the item was already in the chatzer when Shabbos started, well then no problem. You could carry it, from chatzer, roofs, karpavs, no problem. Therefore, this knife that they were carrying to do a bris milah on Shabbos, when Shabbos started, this knife was, let's say, in the chatzer. It wasn't in a house. So that's why they were allowed to transport the knife to where the bris was taking place, and they didn't take it in Rosh Hashanah like Rabbi Eliezer, but they took it on roofs and things like that. Even though the Chacham would say it's not allowed, Reb Shimon says it's fine, and they were doing like Reb Shimon. Ba'a mine Reb Zera Rabbi Asi. Reb Zera asked a kasha from Rabbi Asi, mavui shelo nishtatvu bo ma'alatato b'chulo. If you have a mavui, everybody, you all remember what mavuis are, right? Yes, you do, but I will give you a refresher nonetheless. Remember, you have the Rosh Hashanah, which is Main Street. Now, the way that they constructed their houses, at least in some places, there would be a bunch of houses that opened up into a courtyard. Now, you can have a number of courtyards that open up into an alleyway, and the alleyway opens up into Main Street. So from Main Street, you go into some alleyway, and from the alleyway, you can turn into, different chatzerot, different courtyards, and then in those courtyards, you would have different houses. So this mavui is the alleyway that the different courtyards open up into. Now, in order to be able to carry from one courtyard into the mavui, or from the mavui into another courtyard, from a mavui into a courtyard, you have to do a shitufei mivos, which is the same as Rashi points out, that in Dibra Masel Shalon Ishtatvu Bo Eruv de Chatzeris b'mavui kari shituf, that the same thing that you do in an Eruv to be able to in a Chatzer to be able to carry from a house into the Chatzer, which is you make an Eruv. So in order to be able to carry from a Chatzer into a mavui, you would make a shitufei mivos. I assume that, I guess we'll probably learn it in Eruvin, but I assume what it means is that you'd probably take some kind of a bread and put it somewhere, and all the Chatzeros would join together in this bread, and then that would make you allowed to carry from the chatzer to the mavoi. So, but what if you didn't do that? What if you did not do shitufei mavos? Can you carry in the mavoi? Meaning, obviously, you can't carry from a chatzer into the mavoi or vice versa. But if there's just like something already in the mavoi, can you pick it up and carry it? That is Reb Zera's kasha to Reb Asi. So, ba'mine Reb Zera Reb Asi mavoi shelo nishtatfu bo. So, if you have a mavoi that you did not do shitufei mavos, can you carry within the mavui? Not going, into a chatzer or anything like that, but within the mavui can you carry? Do we say, well, let's just treat a mavoi that there's no shitufei mevoos like a chatzer that doesn't have eruvei chatzeros. Just like in a chatzer, if they didn't make an eruv, you would be allowed to carry within the chatzer. So here also by the mavoi, even though they didn't do shitufei mevoos, you can still carry up and down the mavoi. Who cares? Just don't go into any of the chatzeres, or obviously not into Rishus Harabim. O Dilma, or maybe we'll say they're not the same. Lo dami lechatzer. Maybe a mavoi is not like a chatzer. The chatzer is leidalad mechitzes, hailes leidalad mechitzes. A chatzer has 4 walls. It's surrounded by 4 walls. It's a Rishus HaYachid. Now, the mavoi is not surrounded by 4 walls. We've seen mavois that maybe were dead-end mavois that were surrounded by 3 walls. We've also seen mavois that you can walk straight from one end to the other end. They're open. Right? Mavoi amafulash, mavoi she'enu mafulash. So, inami, or chatzer isle diurin, hailes be diurin. Right? A chatzer is made for living in, for carrying in, for moving things in, for moving things around in, for general kind of life kind of things. Mavois, you don't like live in it. You don't necessarily move things around in there. So maybe a chatzer and a mavoi are fundamentally different. And even though I can carry things within a chatzer, meaning not from a house into a chatzer, meaning if something is already in the chatzer when Shabbos begins and there was no eruv, you would nonetheless be allowed to carry things that are in the chatzer. So maybe, so we want to know, does the same apply to a mavoi? If when Shabbos started there was something lying in a mavoi, can I move it around in there? Do we compare it to a chatzer and say yes, or do we not compare it to a chatzer and say no? Shasik v'le'amalei v'lomidi, and guess what? Reb Asi zipped his lips and did not say anything. Well, so much for that, says Reb Zera. Zimnin ashkeche de Yosef v'ka'amar. But then, one time, Reb Zera found Reb Asi who said the following. The same Reb Asi who he asked his kasha to and he zipped his lips and didn't answer anything. One time Reb Zera heard Reb Asi say the following. Reb Shimon ben Lakish mishum Reb Yehuda Anasi. Reb Shimon ben Lakish said the name of Reb Yehuda Anasi, the name of Rebbe, the compiler of the Mishnayos. Pam achas shachachu. One time they made a mistake. V'lo heviu izmo me'erev Shabbos, and they did not bring the knife for bris milah from before Shabbos. V'heviu b'Shabbos, so they brought it on Shabbos. V'yadavar kasha lechachamim, and it was very, very difficult for the chacham. They were very upset. Heach manichin divrei chacham v'osin k'Rabbi Eliezer. The chacham were very upset. How could they have taken this knife in Rishus Harabim on Shabbos? How could they have ignored the chachamim's opinion, which is that you're not allowed to carry this knife in Rishus Harabim on Shabbos? How could they have ignored the opinion of the chachamim and done like Rabbi Eliezer? Chada, for one reason, to Rabbi Eliezer, shamusihu. Rabbi Eliezer was excommunicated, as we know, from the Tanur Shalachnai, that they excommunicated him. V'od, and more so, Yachiv Rab Malachik Rabbim. Whenever you have a machlokas between one person and many people, you do like the Rabbim. So how in the world could these people have justified to themselves carrying this izmal, carrying this knife to do a bris milah in Rishus Harabim on Shabbos? Clearly they're paskening like Rabbi Eliezer instead of the Chachamim, and it made no sense to them. V'amar Rabbi Yoshaya, and said Rabbi Yoshaya, it's still Rabbi Asi talking, right? He's quoting this statement from Rish Lakish, the name of quoting Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, and then now Rabbi Yoshaya gets involved in this brisa, and he says, She'ilis as Rabbi Yehuda gozer. Rabbi Yoshaya says, look, I spoke with Rabbi Yehuda the Mohel. V'amar li, and he said, Mavoi shelo nishtatvu bo'ava. No, he said, you guys got all the facts wrong. They weren't carrying the knife in Rishus Harabim. They were carrying it in a mavoi. It was a mavoi that they didn't do a shitufei mevoos in it. And they were just carrying the knife, they were just carrying the knife from one end of the mavoi to the other end of the mavoi. That's it. They weren't carrying it in Rishus Harabim. They were just carrying it within the same mavoi. So Amarle, so So that was what Rabbi Asi was saying, right? One time, so Rabbi Zera asked Rabbi Asi, hey Rabbi Asi, are you allowed to carry in a mavoi that they didn't make in a shitufa mevosin? He was quiet, he didn't give an answer. Seemingly he didn't know the answer. Reb Zera said, okay, he accepted it. Fine. But then one time Reb Zera heard Rabbi Asi saying over this anecdote that Rish Lakish was saying the name of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi about this one time the people carried an Ismail on Shabbos, and they were all upset. And then Rabbi Oshaya said that he spoke to Rabbi Yehuda the Mohel, who said that actually it wasn't in Rosh Hashanah, it was just in a mavoi that there was no Erev. So we see. So Amar Le. So Reb Zera said to Reb Asi, Svir le lamar mavish lo nishtatzvo muter l'talto b'chulo. So then Reb Zera said, wait, Reb Asi, are you implying that you hold that the halacha is that a mavui that they didn't do shitufei mivos, you would be allowed to carry in it? Amle in. Reb Asi said yes. Amle v'azimnim bai minach v'lo amart li. And to Reb Zera said, but one time I asked you and you didn't tell me anything. Dilma agav shitvach roit lach gmarach. Amle in agav shitva rihita li gemari. So Reb Zera then suggested to Reb Asi, maybe, when I asked you, you didn't know the answer, but you reviewed your learning, and as you were reviewing your learning, you then learnt this statement, this teaching of Rish Lakish and Rabbi Yehuda Nasi with the story with the people carrying the Ismail on Shabbos, and that they said in the end that it was just carrying in a mavoi. And he says, yes, that's exactly it. As I was going over my learning and reviewing it, I learned this halacha as well. So we see that you would be allowed to carry in a mavoi that they didn't do shitufei mavos with. Very, very interesting. We're going to stop here because there isn't a good stopping point really until a little bit further down in tomorrow's daf. So let's stop here for now. Let us review daf Kuf Lamed of Masechta Shabbos. So we started off with the Mishnah where there's a machlokes in Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Akiva. Can you carry an Ismail to do a bris milah? Can you carry it in Rosh Hashanah on Shabbos? Rabbi Eliezer says, yes, sure, you can carry it, even though, it's machshire mitzvah, right? It's not the actual bris milah itself. It's just something that you need in order to do the bris milah that you could have done before Shabbos. Rabbi Eliezer says, nonetheless, you're allowed to carry it in Rishus HaRabim. Rabbi Akiva says, however, no, only the bris milah itself is docha Shabbos, overrides Shabbos, but any meta kind of things, such as carrying the knife to the location where the bris is going to happen, that would not be docha Shabbos. Now the Gemara said, the Gemara asks, how come Rabbi Eliezer says something interesting, which is that the knife specifically has to be revealed, it has to be exposed, he has to carry it out in the open, he doesn't carry it in a bag. Is it out of love for the mitzvah, or is it out of, just being very transparent and open and saying, look, this is what I'm carrying, I'm not carrying anything else on Shabbos? What's the nafkamina? The nafkamina is, well, if he wanted to, can he just put it in a bag and then just bring witnesses to testify about the fact that he's not carrying anything else? If it's out of love for the mitzvah, you can't just put it in a bag, you want to reveal it. If it's out of, the yentas being concerned that maybe he's carrying more things, well then you could just bring witnesses. In the end we say it's out of love for the mitzvah, and therefore he should keep it revealed. The Gemara then had some interesting Aggadatas that any mitzvahs that the Yidden accepted out of simcha, we still do them b'simcha, such as bris milah. Whereas things that we did out of fighting, such as arayos, so we still do these things with fighting, such as when people get married, there are all sorts of fights about the marriage contract, about the money involved, and all sorts of exciting stuff. The Gemara said anything that Yidden were willing to die for during a very hostile time, such as bris milah and avodah zarah, so it's still solid in our hands. But something like tefillin, which we weren't necessarily as steadfast in, so we still do it, but it needs a little bit extra support, such as the halach is making sure that you can't sleep in your tefillin or you can't pass gas in your tefillin. Then we talk about, we sort of expand upon the machlokas about carrying this Ismail on Shabbos. So, of course, Rabbi Eliezer says that you can carry it even in Rosh Hashanah, but now we saw the opinion of the Chachamim, who say that you're not allowed to carry it in Rosh Hashanah. You're also not allowed to carry it by way of roofs and courtyards and non-residential spaces. Rabbi Shimon says that you're not allowed to carry, not just in Ismail, but carrying in general, you can't do in Rosh Hashanah, but you would be allowed to carry from a roof to a courtyard to a non-residential space. It's no problem. You can kind of do that as long as when Shabbos started, the thing was in one of these other alternate spaces. And that's what happened in this story, that the Ismail was, let's say, in a courtyard, and they were able to transfer it to wherever the bris was happening by way of these other methods, avoiding Rosh Hashanah. And then we asked in the end, Reb Zera asked the kasha to Rav Asi, Can you carry in a mavui that they did not make a shitufei mevo'os? Ultimately, the answer was yes. Friends, that was Daf Kuf Lamed. I hope you enjoyed it very much. And I hope you also really enjoy your day or night very much as well. Peace.